this was a year. This was a year. 2020 is a year that I think, Knicks fandom aside, I can't imagine that there's anybody listening to this podcast who is ever going to forget this year for reasons that I care not to talk about on this podcast, because I'm in a good mood right now, and I hope everybody else listening out there is in a good mood. And it was a rough year, and I want to say, very briefly, that I know a lot of people have reached out to me over the last several, whatever it's been, months, I guess, and said that they appreciated the fact that through it all, this podcast has been there for them, and other people have shared similar thoughts about the newsletter. And I want to say that, one, that is beyond meaningful to me as someone who, puts a little bit of time into this stuff. I know I said last week with Jeremy that we don't plan out these podcasts that we do every Sunday. Partially because we don't need to, because we think about this stuff way too much. But also the truth is that I don't really have an extra 10 minutes in my week. And every spare second, minute, hour that I have is not a spare minute, because it's going towards trying to, make good stuff. And the reason I do that is for you all. And I want to say thank you, because I am this is why I started by saying this is a tough year for me to talk about, because this year has been so awful for so many reasons, and for so many people, for me, this was the year where I finally got to sit back and be proud of what I do. And I say this as someone who, went to college and went to law school and practiced and has been a teacher and, done whatever else. And not once have I ever felt 1/100th the amount of satisfaction professionally, or really honestly in any capacity in life other than with my family, as I have this year. And again, that is because of you. Every one of you who spends even 5 minutes a week listening to this pod. You are the reason that I am now, for the first time in my life, able to go to sleep at night with a clear head and feeling good about what I've been able to accomplish in this world. So I just, again, thank you to everybody who has been a part of that this year. And I am sorry to everybody listening who has had a really difficult year. And I hope that next year is a lot better. Because it can't be much worse, right? So, I'm recording this now at 3 p.m. on New Year's Eve. The next time you hear an episode of this podcast, it'll be after January 1st and onwards and upwards. I also just want to take a brief second to say a few thank yous. First and foremost, and I did this on Twitter the other day, but I feel like I need to do it again in this venue, because the person who produces this podcast, Andrew Claudio, came aboard a little bit more than a year ago. And he has, as far as I'm concerned, completely revolutionized everything that we do at KFS. He has turned it from me dicking around at my kitchen table to, me feeling like, okay, this is a real professional thing that we're doing. And he puts more time and energy and effort into producing these podcasts and producing the YouTube videos as anyone. And as I say that, I receive a text from Andrew reminding me to remind you that if you want to get my thoughts on the Knicks game that is about to be played in a few hours, in which they are facing off against the Toronto Raptors, be sure to check out the Knicks Film School YouTube channel, because I'm not always going to be able to get a chance to do the post-game recaps for the podcast. However, you can always check out my post-game periscopes because we throw those up on YouTube right after the game. So if ever you want to hear my inane thoughts about the basketball that the New York Knickerbockers have just played, go to the Knicks Film School YouTube channel and do me a favor and subscribe while you're there, because we're really trying to build that into something big and good and special. So thank you to Andrew Claudio. Thank you also to the person who was on roughly half of these episodes with me, Jeremy Cohen. Again, at one point in time, I did not take this, as seriously as I do now. And I was just kind of like, okay, well, I'll get guests when I need to get guests. And the fact that I have someone now that I could rely on to talk with every week and who will show up no matter, come hell or high water every Sunday. We usually record Sunday at 5:00, sometimes now after games. That has been just awesome. And I know all of you out there love Jeremy. I love Jeremy. So I just want to, say thank you to him. Also, thanks to Spencer Perlman. Not only is he a frequent guest on this podcast, but he is, as I tweeted today, the smartest basketball person I know. And he just got a very nice promotion, where I should say not a promotion. He got hired. He got a job in basketball working full time. It's a long time coming. And, it's well-deserved. There's honestly too many people for me to thank specifically, but just the last person I do want to note, and thanks, to everybody who has appeared as a guest on this show, including everybody who helped donate and raise money to Higher Heights for America. I appreciate all of you. But I just lastly need to thank Jeff Ballone. Knicks Film School is not mine. It is not something I created. If you are a new listener to this podcast, you may not know that, but Knicks Film School is still in my mind, a Twitter account that was created and run by JB. And sometime I lose track of the days, but sometime he essentially, handed that name over to me and said, run with it. And now it's become a daily newsletter. It's become this podcast. It's become the YouTube channel. And I don't think JB would mind me saying this. He has I'm obviously the newsletter is making is a subscription thing now. Shameless plug, go subscribe to that. We're trying to turn this into something bigger and better. JB has never, despite my trying to force it on him, JB has never asked for a dime for any of this. He is a living saint. And I don't know how I got lucky enough to make a friend as good as him. But I just, it would be strange of me to do a bunch of year-end thanks and not include JB in that list of folks. So thank you, JB. And then, I think that's it. I'm excited to see the Knicks try to go above 500 tonight. I did not take the time to see when is the last time that the Knicks were above 500. I do not believe it ever happened last year. I don't think it happened the year before that. It feels like it's been a while. But if they do it tonight, I'll be excited. We're going to get to see Austin Rivers. It sounds like we are probably going to get to see Emmanuel quickly. It sounds like probably going to get to see Alec Burks. So I think we have some interesting rotation questions on the horizon. If I had to wager a guess, and I realize I am wagering this guess 4.5 hours before I am inevitably proven wrong, I would say that we are going to see this. Well, we are going to see the same starting lineup almost certainly. And then I think we're going to see a backup five comprised of, because Frank Ntilikina is out, comprised of Alec Burks, if he plays. I'm assuming he will. Austin Rivers, Emmanuel Quickly, Kevin Knox, and Nerlens Noel. And I think that's pretty safe to assume. I think he's going to go with a 10-man rotation. And then at some point, Obi Toppin is going to come back. And then the shit is really going to hit the fan. And it sounds like it's going to be another week or so before he can even participate and start getting ramped back up. So they have some wiggle room to work with. Is that enough time for a trade? Probably not. But I would just say to every Knick fan, let's enjoy this. There are no rotation complaints to be made right now. Everything is the team is playing hard for the most part. They're playing well. If they could get a win tonight, all the better. Go into the new year with an above 500 record. That would be something else. But yeah, I think it's a good time to be a Knicks fan. And then just the last thing I'll say, I think famous last words, but here goes. I think 2021 is going to be the best year to be a Knicks fan in a very, 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 very long time. And I say that with some trepidation, but I also feel pretty good about it because Leon Rose has now been in this job for all intents and purposes. I mean, this was really announced in the middle of February. So he's had 10 and a half months to kind of go about this thing, right? He has stayed steady the whole time. And I'm writing about it a little bit in Friday's newsletter. He has not rushed. He has not caved under the pressure to make this team better right away. He seems to be taking a measured approach. And I think that will pay off for him at some point sooner rather than later. Because the thing about the NBA is opportunities come up, and it may not always be, and there have been opportunities that have come up in the league since he has taken over, and he has not been able to take advantage of those opportunities because they were not the right time for this team to take advantage of those opportunities. I think there will be an opportunity for him to take advantage of this year that will be right for this franchise, for where they are at. And I think this upcoming draft is going to be a very, very, very significant moment in this franchise's history. I know people right now are, picking nits about Tyrese Halliburton versus Obi Toppin. And to be frank, I don't really care. I think Obi Toppin's going to be fine. I think Halliburton's a nice player. That's not going to define this franchise. Quite frankly, nothing they did do over the last several months is going to come to define this franchise. If anything, things they didn't do may come to define it more than things they did do. But this upcoming draft is going to be big, and I think it's going to be a good year. I think it's going to be a good year. I think the right people are in place, and it's not necessarily the type of stuff that I could put in a sources say section of the newsletter, but everything that I have heard, coming from people who I trust know about a little bit about the inner workings of what's going on behind the scenes, things are looking up. And things are running, perhaps most importantly, from a fan's perspective, and I still am a fan first and foremost, I think things are running functionally and coherently behind the scenes. And there is, everybody has a plan until they get hit in the mouth. But I think there is a plan in place, and it is not, a hope and a prayer, which, sorry, Steve Mills, but that's kind of what that was. So, yeah. Lots to look forward to, and I hope you guys and gals stay along for the ride because what a ride it has been. What a ride I think it will continue to be. I always say it to JB. God forbid this team ever gets good, right? We've all been creating content about this team for some time now, and they have just been the absolute worst team. And God forbid they ever get good. Then I think we're going to really have some fun. And I think out there for you listening to this, I think it's going to be fun for all of us uniformly. So I appreciate you listening to my little diatribe. I hope you didn't mind. I try not to do this too often, but sometimes I feel there is a need. And as the year ended, I did feel there was a need today.